Good afternoon. I pray that your weekend was filled with spaces and places of joy, of peace, of happiness. That maybe you heard a message of encouragement. Maybe you read a post that lifted your spirits. Maybe you had a conversation with someone and one thing was said or reminded you of something that just reminded you, that just filled you with a sense of hope, that filled you with a sense of, we gonna be all right. And if that was not your experience this weekend, I pray that you will have that experience today on purpose, at least some portion of today, even if it's just for a quick couple of minutes, because you're worth it. We're continuing our conversation about toxic relationships, and I want to take a minute to just check in and see how you are doing. We've listed a number of signs that the relationship, I think it was 13 signs that your relationships might be toxic. And last week we began to talk about if in fact your relationship is toxic, what are some hopes, what are some possibilities that things could work out? What would be needed in order to work this out to make it a healthier relationship? And again, I remind you, we're not just talking about intimate relationships. We're also talking about relationships between parents and children, between siblings, between frats, between sorors, between church members, between temple or synagogue members, mosque members, relationships at work, any type of relationship. Anytime we interact with someone who is not our clone, meaning someone who walks like us, talks like us, thinks like us, has the same background, had the same history. Anytime we interact with anybody, and that's all of our interactions, there is a possibility or potential that the relationship could be healthy or that it could be unhealthy or somewhere on that continuum. And so my desire, my goal is to help you to have life, to help you to have balance, to help you to be able to enjoy as much of life as possible. And one place to begin in enjoying life is through healthy relationships. Healthy relationships doesn't make your life good, but having a healthy relationship can contribute to it. And I just want to remind us that a lot of you came on this page, or a lot of you resonate because you have trauma histories. And if you have had a history of being traumatized, it can be hard to find joy. It can be hard to find peace. It can be hard to find happiness because you're so busy being afraid. You're so busy being very anxious. You're so busy being untrustworthy. And so maybe the toxic person in the relationship, you may be contributing to that. Maybe you're bringing your own toxicity. But again, these videos are not to beat you up, but to help you in your path towards healing and restoration. And for some of us, maybe you have healed. Maybe you have been restored. Maybe emotionally you are quite balanced. Things are a whole lot better now than what they used to be. But you still find yourself with some residual relationships, some residual entanglements that are not as balanced as they could be, that are out and out toxic. But you hold on, you continue to interact with them, and that's your choice. You like it, I love it. Again, we're just talking about if this is your choice, if you want to try to work it out, and I do believe in working things out, then these are some suggestions of what would need to be in place. Now, I'm not going to review them all. You can watch the videos. But what I am going to say is the most important piece is both partners must be willing. Both partners must be willing to work on the relationship. Both partners must be willing to take equal responsibility or take their own responsibility for what toxicity they may bring or the toxicity that they may be tolerating. And if you want to hear more about that, you can go back and look at one of the videos from last week. Today, what we're talking about is if you're in a relationship and you would like for it to become healthier than what it is, because right now it's quite toxic. Right now, it's bringing you increased stress and anxiety, maybe some depression. It may have you acting out of character. Another thing that you too can do is to agree to possibly seeking outside help. I'm going to say that again, to possibly seeking outside help. Yes, I'm talking about therapy. Now, some of you may say, well, I'm having a problem with my man or whatever. So, we went to talk to my pastor, and that's cool. That is an option. But I would caution you, make sure that your pastor has a background in pastoral counseling, because that's a totally different perspective. That takes different training. If you want a Christian counselor or a counselor who's from your faith tradition, that is your choice. Whoever you choose, my only caveat is to make sure that that person does have the credentials, does have the background, possibly if you can, if they have a great track record, that they come by recommendation. And for a number of us, we wouldn't know the answer to that to save our lives, because we come from communities where we don't tell people our business. We work it out on ourselves. We don't need nobody to tell us how to do with our relationship. Don't tell me what to do with my children, with my man, with my woman, with my whoever. But the reality is, every now and then, and sometimes more now than then, we all could use an unbiased third party who can sit with us and sit with us and the person who we're having toxic relationship with. We need a third party, unbiased person who can listen to what's being said by both parties and also what's not being said. Someone who can look at our body language. Body language says so much. I was doing actual individual counseling with a female client, and she had brought her husband in, because I always like to meet them. And as we were talking, he said some things that she did not particularly care for. And she never said a word, but she literally turned her entire back to him and kind of curled up. And her other body language, during other times during the session, she would roll her eyes at him. She would back in dismay. She could not tolerate being able to hear what he had to say. And it's not even about whether she agreed, it was the hearing. But my point in this is, body language tells a lot. And sometimes we need a third party to be able to observe, because for real, we may not be able to observe ourselves. We may be able to see what the other person is doing, how the other person is rolling their eyes or looking up like that, or breathing hard, or making sounds or whatever, but we don't see it in ourselves. And so one reason to engage in counseling is a non-biased third party. Someone, again, who can provide a space, a safe place. And that's important, a safe place, as in a place where both parties are giving each other permission to speak their truth without penalty. And that's a large part of counseling when you're in counseling with someone, whether it's couples counseling or family counseling or whatever, is to be able to speak your truth without fear of punishment, without fear of retribution. The counseling room should be a safe space for everyone involved. Now, one of the caveats is, and we're going to talk about this later on, if there is physical violence, domestic violence in the relationship, most ethical counselors will not engage in couples counseling until the domestic violence has ceased. Because the goal in that instance is to keep people alive, to keep them physically safe. Now you kind of understand why it's important for both parties to agree. And now, can you do couples counseling or family therapy with everybody not being in agreement? Of course you can. Of course you can. A part of why you're in counseling is because there's disagreement. The only thing you have to agree on is that it's a safe space, and that people will equally participate. And and that if there are some instructions or some suggestions or homework that's being offered by the counselor, that persons will either agree to do it or will be able to state emphatically, I am not doing this, and this is the reason why. Even being able to say that begins to shift to a new communication pattern. A lot of times when we have, toxicity in our relationships, one of the things we said was poor communication or no communication. People just act but don't say why. People just get mad but don't give a reason. Couples counseling can also, and I believe great couples counseling is not so much focused on what happened in the past, but how can we build a more balanced relationship from this day forward? What are some things that we need to work on so that we can begin, to interact in a healthier way? And so sometimes couples counseling is simply the counselor giving them assignments saying, make a request of each other. And how would you know if that request had been made? To invite the couple to move out of a place of constant fighting or constant stonewalling or constantly being on eggshells, and to intentionally interact with each other. And so counseling is can be really important if you want to save a relationship, if you want a relationship to be healthier. If you don't want the relationship, but you want to learn how to set better boundaries, counseling can give you all of that. I retired from counseling after almost 30 years, so I know what I'm talking about. And at the end of the description of all of my videos, I have a link for Better Health. This is a company I partner with that if you need a counselor, they will locate a counselor for you, not just in the United States, but they also have counselors around the world. So again, I recommend this to you. It can help your relationship in leaps and bounds. It can help you in a way that can you do it by yourself? Sure. Can you do it by listening to these videos? Possible. But my goal is by these videos and by talking to you is to kind of push you to say, you know what, I need more. I really want to begin to unpack my stuff or our stuff. I really want to put dedicated effort into moving towards emotional balance in all my relationships. And in order to do that, a good counselor, a good therapist can be the one to guide you on that path. Do they make decisions for you? No. But they help to provide a space where in that space, you can begin to make decisions that may be healthier for you. You and your partner, you and your child, you and whoever will begin to explore what a healthier relationship may look like. I'm getting ready to end for today, give you something to think about. Open to hearing your comments. Love you all. Enjoy today. For those whose children have started back to school, my heart goes out to you. I encourage you as you become the teacher assistant, as you are managing this virtual school situation. Be strong, be courageous, have courage, but most importantly, have patience with these children. Be empathetic because they're having just as hard a time as you are. Their whole schedules have been knocked awry. So grant them some grace. Love you all. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.